Hey guys, still here and welcome back to Wargame Brendryen. Today I'm going to be looking into one of my own replays. This is a replay of a game that I lost, and I want to see exactly why that is, because I think that I played rather okay. Yes, there were definitely things that I fucked up severely, and I want to see what I can find out about that. There are quite a few of you who seem to think that I'm an excellent player. I'm really not. I just try to get by. When I'm playing Wargame. And you can have a go at me in the comments with one condition. It's far too easy to say, oh, you're shit at the game. Yeah, that much has been established. We know that. Fine. What can I do about that? It's far too many people on the internet who just keep saying, oh, you're shit. And they point and laugh. And then you ask to see a replay of theirs. Or you ask for constructive feedback. And it just doesn't materialize. Too easy. And I expect you all to be better than that. So, let's have a look at what the enemy's bringing and what I'm bringing in return. Important to know, I'm bringing a general Blue Dragons deck. Now, it's going to be slightly hard to find my units between all those of Sparky over here. Sparky was taking his armored deck over here. This is our first mistake, I'd say. An armored deck, insofar as it has a place on this map, would be more suited to try and push Foxtrot. It's more open terrain, you can use that armor better. But our third random, Rena, he just plunked down his marker there. And since we were very limited in our communication with him, Sparky said, okay, well screw it, I'm gonna go over here. And over here, the armor that you have is more easy to overcome for the enemy, because they can deploy HEGMs, which just shut you down. They can get infantry up short ranges thanks to these tree lines. And they can be spotting your tanks from absolutely everywhere. If you try to push up here, you get side shot from over there. That is, if blue doesn't continue to control or suppress this forest. So, an armor deck over there, not ideal. And that made my assault on Delta a little harder. Now, the units that I'm using are a couple of Nanion Shiki-G support tanks. And, well, support tanks might be overdoing it, but they're cheap tanks, 60 points, bit of frontal armor, very good rate of fire, and a grenade launcher. Kyoroku WAPCs with infantry inside, a couple of those Hachikiyu Shikis. These are, and I'm probably going to be insulting quite a few units over here. You can basically consider them the Bradley of the Japanese, although they might be a native product, I don't know. So, the plan over here is to move over to Delta as quickly as possible, and the infantry is trying to get there as quickly as possible with wheeled vehicles. So that's the Kyorokus. The Hachikiyu Shikis are going to be slightly behind as they're tracked, and they're going to be arriving at the same time as the Neon Shiki-G, with a couple of, I believe I had further support units. Yeah, a couple of mortars, so that I can either smoke my way in, or make sure that the enemy gets rained upon by HE shells. In the meanwhile, I was expecting quite a few helicopter units, and I was not mistaken about that. K-52, Mi-24V, so that's another AA helo. A couple of Sokols, but these are not from Raz, these are from Gulliver. Also Mi-24D and an Mi-17. The rest of his force is wheeled, just like mine is. Although I'm not exactly sure where Gulliver is going, because I believe that it was Raz who was going to be deploying towards Delta. Anyway, this is why I deployed my ninjas. Quickly countering the units as they were deploying their infantry. At least that was the plan. K-52 is down. Mi-24V is down. I lose 2 ninjas. I fight it out with a Sokol. I lose 1. Rena backs me up with a Celtic, but at that point my ninja is empty, so all I can do is run. And it can sort of run fast enough, but not without taking a hit. Red apparently only deployed 1 Spetsnaz team. Oh nice, did you see that? The Celtic, which I think just went down here, you can see, yep, there it is. The Celtic was able to hit the helicopter for 5 HE, and the Spetsnaz Gru were so close that they also took a 5 HE splash. So those guys got half of their hit points knocked off. Okay, so what else is he coming in with? Gulliver is in fact not going to the town. He seems to be bypassing it. He's also dropped off Commandosi on the left. I come in with a bomber, wipe out the helo, which did help. My Kyoroku WAPCs are poorly micromanaged and they are on the wrong track. They should be on the road to the right, but they're on the road to the left. And at this point, I think the Spetsnaz crew can just about open fire at them. And they're going to get all sorts of support. Yeah, now I'm taking RPG fire from these guys. Immediately drop off all the infantry and go ham on them with the grenade launchers. So far so good. This is, however, when the autocannon wielding transports come up, the BTR-80As. My Hachikyū Shikis, KAAV 4050s with further grenade launchers, and my Nanion Shikis are trying to support. These things, however, don't fire on the move that well, 55%. And I think they need to fire twice before they actually get a kill. So I was able to get the Spetsnaz crew out of the way. Kutai are alive. Kyorokus are not. He deployed Conquerors. Quite effectively so. And he's raining death upon my other transports. I immediately lose one Hachikyū Shiki. Yeah, this is as expected. At this point he didn't have too much in the town. Immediately lose one tank. KAV 4050s are still allowed to push through. Yakari 90 being offloaded. Immediately get a grenade swarm or grenade storm rain down on them. Bunch of Morskaya Pekota survived, fighting it out against Kutai. There goes another transport. All my tanks are dead, so my infantry is standard out here thanks to their transports dying. I have to try and get those over. At this point I try to lay down suppressive fire on the Conquerors using my mortars. I also bring in a short arrow. Let's see how Sparky's doing in the meanwhile. He's going up against Postosh and Yekri and one Commandosi squad. He's pushing out very aggressively with a 2A5. But I don't think he can really see anything. He has one reconnaissance unit over here. No, sorry, not a recon unit. This is the recon. Yeah. This is the problem with you going armored on this part of the map. Anyway, I'm trying to get my infantry into position. Currently the town is quite weak. I take out another transport. Morskaya Pekota are down to just 2 guys. Yekeri down to 2 guys. Suppress them with HE fire from the mortars. As I'm trying to get my Kutai to catch the Morskaya. And he's already bringing in a couple of new transports. Here they are, BTRTs. That's going to be fun. That's Sapari. T-72 B1s. And Bissio is bringing in BTR-80As. That might have been part of the problem, that I was fighting 2 players here. Okay, so at this point, I pretty much control the town. I don't control the forest at all. If I were to push my Kyoroku over to the left, it would immediately die to the Sissy. There goes the Yekeri. Now I have the town. I have reinforcements coming up. But not fast enough. There's another equipped reinforcement from Sparky. Another KAV 4050 from me. Trying to bring these guys up as quickly as possible, but they're tracked mostly, so they're going to take a little bit of time to get there. The infantry that lost their transport and got offloaded there is finally in a position to actually move up. I take out a concourse. And I pretty much have this town under control. Or so I thought. Scouting out with a Kyu. At this point I spot the Osa, trying to catch the Osa before it retreats. Vasilek providing some fire support there. He's pretty much pointing out where he wants his own troops to go. There come the Sapri. These things are so hard to kill for infantry, the BTRT. I mean, they're designed to be hard to kill. But infantry up close against this thing is just dead. Unless they have some sort of really high AT value. KRKK with a grenade launcher, that's no fun. Ostosh engaging my transport. I don't see it, well I see it just in time. I offload the infantry, but the HE explosion / AP explosion also damages the infantry. And again, strands them out in the open. So again, I'm going to have to walk my way over there. All that's holding the town is a group of very wounded Socheongsu and Kutai against an oncoming group of Sapari. At this point, however, I don't know about that. I keep sending in new units. Nanion Shiki, Hachinana Shiki the scout. You got the cargoes to get my units back up to full strength. I'm doing a bit of probing here with another infantry group. Immediately run into the Sapari. Sapari so far on the move, so they can only use their assault rifle, but now they're stopped and they immediately proceed to wipe out my infantry. BTRT's on support there, and the tanks on the left. I try to move up with Kutai, get punished by an MI8. And since I don't have any AA infantry over here, I cannot shoot down the MI8. So they can continue to keep doing that. Sapari is now in the town. It's really bad news for my Kutai. They were able to spot my other infantry squad and wipe it out with the MI8. Fortunately, this thing is now out of ammo. But now I'm dealing with Sapari in my town. Apparently I was able to either hit or damage one BTRT. Yeah, damage. Not kill. They're both still here. Mortars firing a bit more HE onto the infantry here. Not enough to kill them though, but definitely enough to panic them and stun lock them into being ineffective. Yeah, and this is where things go to shit. These guys with their M72A4 Law have 16 AP. This thing has 13 frontal armor. It's going to take a lot of ammunition to go through that. And in the meanwhile, they're taking grenade launcher fire and they're taking fire from a napalm launcher. Good luck surviving that. I can see that the Sapari are trying to withdraw. My forces get wiped out. No thanks to me, because I could have either smoked them up and or retreated them. I did neither. That's a mistake. Another BTRT comes rolling down the line, and at this point I have very little to stop it. Because my 5 Kutai are alive. But that's about all you can say. KAV 4050 against the BTRT. This is a slug match of grenade launchers. Unfortunately for me, I have 2 frontal armor and he has 13. So this is not going to go well. Then he pushes in with the tanks. My tank at this point would have been entirely ineffective, as these things have both more armor and more AP power. 17 AP, 8 frontal armor, 15 frontal armor, 18 AP. So they would very much be able to penetrate each other, especially at short range. But I had nothing to back them up. And now I run into a bit of a geographical problem. And not just that, but it seems that he is also, and he, I mean Raz, is getting support from Gulliver. And between the two of them, they're able to field so much force down in this town that I am completely stuck trying to survive it all. Do a bit of a random bombing strike on that forest, expecting to hit something. But since it's Conquest, I don't know if I actually do hit something. At least in Conquest, I do have a CV over here, but in a map like, or in a sector like this, it's very easy to guess where the CV is. The Commandosi, Sapari, VDV are all feeling very confident, and rightly so. So they're starting to push me out of this town. I don't have a lot of positions to fall back to, just these buildings on the edge of town. Fortunately, there's no fire support coming in from over there. And as for the moment, my KAV 4050 and my KM 900s with further infantry are able to roll up pretty easily towards that town. Had he deployed his transports and the T-72B1s over here, all of these things would have been dead. These guys held the line, ish. Drop off the Socheongsu, KM 900s drop off the Hebyung 90. These can make short work of most, if not all, of the transports, including the BTRDs. But a BMP-T at range is a whole different problem. So now it's just going door to door. For both sides, that is. He deploys a Buratino. Proceeds to put most of the town, at least my supply line, on fire. And you can see that the BMPT might not have an exact fit on my location. Fit? Exact fix. What the hell, Stealth? Might not have an exact fix on my location, but at least he's providing grenade launcher support and support with that to a 70. He hasn't even used his autocannon yet. I'm sort of surrounded. I'm trying to get a very short-range engagement with the BTRT so I can kill it. But so far, I'm not actually getting hit, so I keep jumping around from building to building here. Got one of them. Unfortunately for me, there's another group rolling in. That's 2 more BTRTs. So immediately, I start losing infantry here, as they are utterly surrounded. The other infantry is mostly dead, with the exception of the Hebu 90, but they're not far off. I still have a couple of transports over here, but they're barely able to do anything. MI-17 apparently has been resupplied and is back in the fight, killing off transports. Now, I'm not too worried about these transports. They can get killed off, as far as I'm concerned, because they don't do much. And this is when the last of my infantry dies. Now, the problem here is that he controls the forest. And I'd say that this is an advantage for whoever's playing this side of the map. Because it's very easy to bring your supply line over here, loop it through the forest, and bring in either infantry or fire support vehicles or even tanks through that forest and cut off any resupply lines that the other team over here might have. So I'm running into a geographical challenge here. I don't really see what I could have done to prevent that. Because my units at short range against all this infantry, it would have been a slugfest. And getting to this forest would also have been a challenge. Even if the infantry and vehicles hadn't been here, I'd still have to contend with supporting units from over here. And this HEGM could wipe out 6 vehicles, provided that they hit everything, but with 65% accuracy and elite level of training, that is very likely. So there's not a whole lot that I could have done better, I think. But if you do spot something, please be sure to point that out in the comments down below. Because there are undoubtedly things that I've really fucked up. Hachina Nishiki providing a bit of fire support, gets spotted and immediately wiped out by another Ostosh. Surprisingly, 2 guys from the Sochang-su group here have survived. But they're getting swarmed by BTRTs from 3 sides, and they're still engaging a Sapri from the other. So these guys are dead. And that means that Red now controls the town. Red also brought in their own command vehicle. You can see it over there, W43. So they have that position. I shell their tanks to at least stun lock into position, but it doesn't really matter. And despite me constantly bringing in units, I was not able to get enough stuff over there. Short Arrow is the only combat unit that I still have. Now, I managed to shoot that thing down with a gun run, of all things. F4 EJ takes no hits there. I pull my mortars back to make sure I save those. Bring in additional infantry and a super heavy, but at this point, Red pretty much has the sector. And it's going to be very easy for them to just start spamming HGMs over here and shoot anything that moves. They can move their tank, and they're already doing it. They can move a tank forward. This is Gulliver. Yeah, it's Gulliver and Raz at this point. There come the HGMs and the BTR 70. I still have a couple of Kutai 90, thanks to the Kyodo or Kyo Rokus. More infantry. And initially they were headed for that town, but the chances of me actually getting there are very, very low. So instead I use mortars to provide killing shots on that logistics vehicle over there. I know a logistics vehicle is not a terribly valuable unit, but at least it shut down the resupply for that HGM. I didn't know exactly what building it was in, but I knew it was... What the fuck's going on today? I knew it was over here in this block of buildings. Now as you can see, he's moving infantry, tank, and HGMs into position. He also has a little bit of AA, an OSA, an Aito, and over here Tunguska M. Wisely turned off the main gun, so it's harder to find. So an airstrike or a helicopter offensive might have worked, but questionable. I move out a short arrow to try and counter something? What the hell was I trying to counter there? Well, at least I won't be countering anything for a while, because the Conquerors immediately shut it down. Also lost a Kiyu, which was apparently exposed to reconnaissance units. And this time they're actually pushing back. Gulliver and Raz combined, with tanks, infantry, and IFVs. Immediately wiping out one group with Kutai. Kutai very, very aggressively trying to fight back, but of course that won't work. I managed to keep them off for at least a little bit with mortars, but I wasn't moving around with the mortars enough, so that you can see they're getting countered right about now. At least this airstrike shut them down a little, wiping out most of the infantry there. Thankfully, Sparky comes in with a couple of grenadiers and some autocannon wielding transports, forcing the infantry back into hiding. But that pretty much ends when that tank gets a good line of sight, or when the HGMs start flying, immediately wiping out one transport. I just have nothing left. I got my mortars, which are panicked / stunned. I got a couple of transports coming in. I have an AH-1 IT. Kiyu Marushiki is moving into position. Hachi Nanashiki is sitting out here in the open. That's just bad. They pretty much know where my command vehicle is, but then again, there's too much guessing over here. He says there's incoming, but incoming from... the Rak 91. Now at this point the battle in points of, or in terms of points, is still fairly even. We're on 127, they're on 94. For some reason we lost the CV in India. No idea what happened there, but that did cost us a lot of points. And I don't immediately see a new CV spawn for this sector, so instead I decide to bring in one of my own. Rena is definitely using a lot of artillery support here. Now at this point I just have no idea how to get back into this town. Of course I didn't have perfect information back at the time. I didn't know exactly what they had, but I had a fair idea of what sort of infantry there was there. And what sort of units I would further be encountering, because those T-72B1s did show themselves from time to time. Kiyu Marushiki pushing into the tree line. The problem for this tank over here is that it does not have any room to maneuver. If I move it outside of this forest, it takes HGMs. If I move it through here, it's engaging tanks at short range and is very vulnerable. And I got HGMs coming in from over there and over there. Here comes the Buratino again, wiping out my CV, securing a sector for them. That's a +3. In the meanwhile, I had to spend points to get a CV for India because Rena wasn't doing it. And that really got me annoyed. Because I don't care how much you're pushing over here, and he really wasn't pushing that much. But a CV in India is critical. That's 2 points. And that really starts to hurt. That continues for long enough, that starts to hurt. Now I have a couple of units which were sort of forced to evacuate the forest, as the forest is completely on fire. Units that are outside the forest immediately get hit. You can see that the Conquerors over here are on point and killing off a K1. I bring in a K1A1, but at the back of the line there. BTRT comes in. Now these are fairly easy to kill, especially with a Kiyu. They ran out of fuel. BTR-80A takes fire from two 765-285s. which then gets shut down by an ATGM. Now, I'm not sure what exactly this was, but it seemed to be some sort of half-assed push. Might have been some sort of probe to see exactly what I had. Martyrs and BTR 88 is just a question of who's going to get the first shot off, and it was the Martyr, but the Morskayas pushed back. I knew that the Morskayas are there, so I immediately withdraw the Kiyomirashiki. All I got left is one grenade launcher transport and So Chung-Su. So instead of providing additional HE shells on top of the enemy, I decide to withdraw. Because I really want this Kiyomirashiki alive. So I'm building a smokescreen road, if you will. A smokescreen wall to get my tank out of here, instead of further in there. Morskayas did take a fair beating from my HE volleys. But at this point they're just rushing in with more transports. Which, again, the KAV 4050 cannot do much against. The Kiyomirashiki is panicked, but at least survived. And might be able to fight another day. K1A1 was moving this way and apparently took a side hit. Yeah, he took a side hit, so I should have been micromanaging that thing a little more. 2 T-72B1s versus 1 K1A1 is not a fair fight. Then again, we're not really in the business of fair fights. So the T-72B1s will quite easily wipe out this guy. Now I get a little bit of support over here from Rena. Dropping bombs on him. At this point though, I just go pretty much completely against my own doctrine of you provide fire support, you provide artillery shells, and then you push back in. I just couldn't push back in. I didn't have the forces. So I was pretty much throwing away bombers without any good follow-up. And I'm not sure what I'm doing over here, but this is just a half-assed assault with one tank, no recon. And of course, the tank immediately gets spotted by the infantry. Infantry fire back at it, miss the tank. Thankfully, they're still panicked. I try to increase the distance, do some damage. Oh, this could have very easily gotten my tank killed. That was terrible. That was terrible. And again, it is far too easy to just go into the comments and say, oh my god, you're terrible at the game. Yeah, I know I'm terrible at the game. That's why I make YouTube videos on it. Let me know what I can do better in this position. If you have a town that's this heavily entrenched, what can you do? Because this is a fairly important sector, Delta. And since we were not going to be able to push over here, and we were not going to be able to push over here, Delta was pretty much the only option that I saw. And of course, the deeper you go into the battle, the more you get stuck into a set frame of mind where you go, no, I have to take Delta. It's not always true. Sometimes you can bypass a sector like this and try to go directly for something like Alpha. But at this point of the battle, the enemy over here seems to be so heavily entrenched that that is not really a viable option. Same thing over here. Had we pushed with 2 players on this side, we might have been able to go through. They still had a lot of forces down here in this cover of trees. Yeah. Anyway, I stubbornly hold my ground with support from Sparky. And I try to get more forces in here. But it's just half-assed at this point. I did bring a CV back into India. And we're now at a +1. Or they're at a +1. More infantry is coming in. I smoke them up, allowing them to get to the safety of that tree line. I was not the only one smoking it up, however, because somebody else from Red 4 was also providing smoke. That was actually very handy and very kind of them. Kutai 90 push in. At this point, they do an offensive with 3 helos, and it is remarkably effective. Since I was so focused on bringing ground forces, I had no AA whatsoever. I completely neglected to do that, because the forces that I was buying were all focused on retaking this little forest and then potentially the town. I had not even considered the option of a helicopter offensive. And since I have no AA, these guys were able to inflict quite a bit of damage, at least on my transports. There go the transports. And then, of course, the infantry is an easy target. I get, what is that, Caesar support? Yeah, apparently I got Caesar support, which are doing a little bit of damage to the BTRTs and at least stun locking them. The Kutai are taking a severe beating from the Helos. K-52 is spotting for them, MI-24 is knocking them over with rocket pods. The Akula is hitting anything with Vickers. It's just a big shit show. There goes a 2A4. Sparky really didn't like that. I bring in another Nanny on Shiki-G and Rena is rushing in with the Fuchs. That's not going to last too long. And of course, I just immediately lose all the infantry here. Short Arrow finally moving up into position to try and support against the helicopters. Getting its first missile off. Hit. Second missile. Misses, unfortunately. Otherwise that would have been a kill. Another miss. No, actually not a miss. I managed to hit the KA-50. There goes the Mi-24V. But the damage is done. They've wiped out another good number of my infantry. And again I'm left with very little. I have a Kiyomara Shiki, 2 short arrows, a Nanny on Shiki-G, and 1 reconnaissance unit to spot for the whole bunch. And spotting over here is yet another challenge. I just lobbed some HE shells over, mostly in frustration, because I wasn't really expecting to hit anything or to do anything useful. And at this point the battle is pretty much done. I have no real forces left. I have no real plan to get into Delta. And I just don't get enough points to get into Delta quickly. Because most everything just gets shut down. So I'm emphasizing over on the right that Rena really needs to make a push. He is building up forces. So he's trying to get his stuff bunched up so much so that he can push on. He's going to be running into Moscow Pagoda 30, and Moscow Pagoda 30, really? 90? Sorry, I'm really off my game today. Igla. No tank. Yeah, 1 tank here. Oh, and a big tank at that. T-72BU. Napalm tank. Here he goes. Yeah, this is something that I was watching pretty much in real time as I was waiting for my forces to come in. He just pushed into a town and didn't have a single smokescreen or an opening of HE. So no bombing runs, no mortar shells, no nothing. He does hit this position with HE, but it's a little late. And of course now his push gets utterly defeated. Even the TO-62 is able to get some napalm off, which blocks off this part. He comes in with a bombing run. That might wipe out some stuff over here. Yep. See, at this point there's not too much stopping him, but he's coming in with a lot of VTTs. What exactly do those contain? He's coming in with a... what is that? Leo 2A1. There's the T-72BU in a position to support, and another T-80A with reflex missiles trying to support as well. He's pushing in with Chasseur. They're not terrible, especially not in great numbers, but 1 bombing run could wipe all of this stuff out. Not seeing any red fast blips on the map yet, fortunately. Yeah, see, this is a problem. Now he's buying all sorts of infantry and transports. But his supply lines are very, very long. So by the time that these things get here, everything else will be dead. I think that he might have been floating quite a few points. In this game I focused on not floating too many points, so I immediately, if I had points, I spent them. And you can see that in the win/loss ratio or kill/death at the end of the game. I lost a lot of forces. I'm finally able to get at least some infantry back into this forest. Trying to provide some fire support with the Hachiki Ushiki. Unfortunately not enough, as the VDV-90 take up my transports. Another group of Hachiki Ushiki coming in with more of the Shoyu Buntai. But again, they have another BTRT over here. Fortunately, it's been damaged. And I might be able to at least suppress it a little bit. It's shaken, but there we go. Now it's panicked. After that HE volley, I push up with my infantry. Another infantry group got wiped out there. I really shouldn't get bogged down on one group of VDV. But then again, I probably don't exactly know what they have in here. Now I rush in with a command vehicle. This is very risky, but we only had 10 minutes left. CV gets into position. And I neutralize the sector, neutralizing their amount of income. There's the other group of infantry. The VDV are still around. Yeah, no surprise. I'm only attacking with half of an infantry squad. I should have used attack move here and I didn't. My fake Bradleys are pushing up. Right into the open arms of the Spetsnaz group, but fortunately they have their hands full. More HE valleys. Mortar shells raining down on the VDV. And it seems that Gulliver picked this moment to start pushing on Sparky even further. Yeah, he's also bringing in units over here. Jesus. I guess they cannot see him because of the smoke screen here. But this guy is very lucky. At this point though, it's basically, and there it is, waiting for artillery to strike the position where they would be expecting my command vehicle. And that's exactly what is happening. They pretty much know that it has to be in here. So, the Rock 91 loads up, gets ready to fire. And once it's actually aimed at the target... Actually, it is aimed, I think. I think it's reloading. Anyway, once it's reloaded, goodbye CV. Sparky's getting pushed on heavily. Not a whole lot that he can do over here. He's losing his forces badly. I'm not exactly sure why we have two CVs sitting right on top of each other. Both Rena and Sparky have a CV in here. And of course, one blow wipes them both out. They're back at a +2. My Kiyo Marashiki is trying to provide a little bit of support against enemy armor. Takes a side missile from a Conqueror's M and gets killed off. I was really, really salty about that. Just utter misplay. The Rock 91's about to fire. Now, as expected, the infantry that Rena over here pushed forward did finally arrive, but a little late. Yes, he's been making some progress. He's gained a little bit of terrain here. He gained this town, where previously he was over there. But he's not getting into Fox. Here comes the artillery. It's miraculously so far missing my command vehicle. Wow. I thought this thing would be dead. Huh. I put up a new smokescreen. Trying to get my forces across. I know that they're going to be running into tanks, but at this point I don't really care. I just try to make as much progress as I can. Now, also note that these guys have double stacked CVs. One standard command jeep. One very heavily armored command CV. Or command tank. That's going to be very hard to kill. At least if I were to go for random artillery strikes. I try to push my infantry forward. They do a little bit of damage to that tank, but not nearly enough. And it's not just one tank, it's a second and a third. So they only killed one out of the original 4 that were over there. If I'm somehow able to kill off these tanks, I might be able to make it back to the town, but very unlikely. I'm very surprised that they didn't actually kill that tank. Or that command vehicle. I should have used further support units over here. I had them parked back, but apparently didn't use them. At this point, Sparky was also calling for help, but he just could not get back into Charlie. And since we're already, or they're already at 415, I just decide to give him the game. And I start moving my command vehicles outside of the sectors that they were originally occupying to make sure that they get a few more points. There's one CV going and there's another CV going, so they're at a +6 and they win. 1,855 points in kills, 3,300, let's say 3,400 in losses. Ouch. I just completely got my ass kicked over there. Sparky, also similarly bad. And Rena, interestingly, made positive. He got more kills than losses. But I'm not exactly sure why. If he got more kills than losses, you would argue that he was gaining terrain, and he was. But I just kept throwing units at the enemy and getting them killed. Anyway, I'm open to suggestions, provided they are actual suggestions. Comments would just say, "Oh my god, you're terrible at the game," I'm going to immediately delete that. Comments that are actually helping me see what I could have done better here, much appreciated. Other stuff, please find another channel to bitch on. I have no time for you. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Thank my patrons for supporting the channel and myself. Very, very much appreciated. I even scored my first Lieutenant Colonel, which I'm very happy about. And of course, if you want to support my channel, then please have a look down below in the description to see how you can do that. If you like it, if you're watching this more than Netflix, and I imagine that some of you might, maybe it's worth about as much or maybe even more than Netflix a month. Anyway, have a look. Thank you for watching. Send me a replay down below in the description if you have a good one. And who knows, might be the next video I feature. See you soon.